Hello and welcome to this video. Today we'll be exploring the first half of the North Africa campaign during the Second World War. This is covering the years from 1940 to 1941. So by the end of this video, you understand why North Africa was so important to the Allies and to the Axis powers, and why neither side could win early on. So let's start with the big question: why did it matter? So the answer comes down to mainly the location. North Africa sits between Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Most importantly, it contained the Suez Canal, one of the most important trade routes in the world. For Britain, this canal was essential. It connected the country to its empire, including India and its vital oil supplies. So you can imagine, if the Axis powers were to capture the Suez Canal, Britain would be in serious trouble. There are two reasons for this. The first reason was because the Suez Canal was used as a supply route for Britain and her empire, which consisted of Canada, India, and Australia. A second reason was because it was a quicker way for Britain to get to her empire. This was because if the Suez Canal was captured, it would have meant that Britain would have had to have travelled all the way around Africa to get to her other allies. Whereas if they did keep control of the Suez Canal, they could have gone through the Mediterranean Sea, down through the Suez Canal, and then into the eastern part of the world that way. Okay, so now let's look at who was fighting. On one side you had the Allied forces, mainly Britain and her troops, who consisted of the British Empire. These soldiers became known as desert rats, famous for their toughness in harsh conditions. On the other side were the Axis powers, first led by Italy and at this time Benito Mussolini, who was the dictator. So in 1940, Mussolini wanted to expand his empire in North Africa. From Italy-controlled Iberia, he launched an invasion into into British-controlled Egypt. But things took the turn for the worst. Things did not go to plan for Italy. The Italian army, at this point, was still on the rebuild from World War One, and they were poorly equipped as a military standpoint, and badly organized in comparisons to the other nations around Europe and who were involved in the war. So what happened next was, because of this, British forces quickly counterattacked and pushed the Italians back deep into Liberia. So at this point, it looked like Italy might lose the campaign, which in turn, because they were on the side of they had the allies of Germany, it wasn't ideal for Germany as well to lose, because Italy losing would have looked bad on Germany. So what happened was Germany stepped in. Adolf Hitler sent troops to North Africa in 1941. These forces were known as the Afrika Korps, and they were led by one of Germany's most famous generals, who was Erwin Rommel. Rommel quickly turned the situation around. Using fast-moving tanks and surprise attacks, he quickly pushed British forces back towards Egypt. His skill earned him the name the Desert Fox. From this point on, the campaign became a back-and-forth struggle across the desert territories, which at the time was consistently being won and lost by both Axis and Allied forces. So ultimately, why couldn't either side win? I think that's the main question for the first half of the North Africa campaign. So one of the major reasons was the environment. The desert was an incredibly difficult place to fight. The desert being a very difficult place to fight for both forces, especially because of the conditions of the desert. Firstly, you had the heat. So during the day, it was really, really hot, and the harsh conditions of the heat really took a toll on the soldiers and the vehicles as well, especially during if there were any sandstorms. You can think of it like that, and how it would interfere with the weapons and vehicles. Also, you have to think of during the night as well. During the night, the temperatures would drop below freezing, so it was a complete contrast to the daytime when it was hot. But now, during the night, it's freezing cold. But the most important factor wasn't the environment. The most important factor that determined why neither side could win was the supply lines. And this map here shows just how important the Suez Canal was to the British and why they needed to keep hold of it at all costs. Even though the map here says 1943 to 1945, it just shows that after America coming into the war, they used the Suez Canal to transport supplies across the world. But if the Axis powers were to have captured the Suez Canal, then America would not have been able to use that route, meaning that the Americans would have to have chosen alternative routes to get supplies across the world, and in many cases that would have taken up more time than necessary. So the supplies being transported to both forces mostly consisted of fuel, food, water, guns, and ammunition being transported over long distances. So you can imagine, if supplies didn't arrive, armies couldn't fight. And if armies couldn't fight, in many cases success depended more on logistics than any battlefield skill. So overall, if you think of it as it was just who could last the longest, or think of it as which side would run out of supplies first, then the other would take advantage on that opportunity to then overwhelm the others. But because early on, like I just said, with neither side actually taking advantage of it, you can imagine supplies at the time were generally quite good at being transported from the back end of each side's territory to the front lines. So, with this being said, by the end of 1941, neither side had achieved any decisive victories, thus the campaign had become a stalemate. This stalemate set the stage for the next phase of the war in North Africa, where we'll be getting into in the next lesson, next video. So with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction into the North Africa campaign. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you like and subscribe for more so you can catch up on any previous videos that I've managed to put out, or if you're looking forward to part 2, then make sure to subscribe. Thank you.